what they're doing here is they're trying to condition the country to prepare for something bad that's about to happen at the hands of Donald Trump. It's straight out of the CIA playbook. It's a destabilization operation where you get people to mistrust each other. You can't have the deep state interfering with a duly elected presidency and get away with it. You got to draw the line in the sand, and you have to make examples out of people.
What is the motivation? Why would 6 members of Congress, selecting specifically for individuals with a CIA or military background, record a carefully written, carefully produced, slickly edited video messaging directly to members of our clandestine services and our armed forces, telling them to disobey orders from their superiors? It's to create a color revolution. It is the CIA playbook for trying to foment insurrection from within the military and within the CIA.
The only reason that the FBI is even looking into this is to chill speech. That's exactly what it is. He wants these people to stop. He wants other members of Congress to he wants to silence Democratic members of Congress and other elected leaders on speaking out against Trump. When it comes to...
Wait, can I ask you a question? Stop what? You said they want them to stop. Stop what?
They want them to stop speaking out.
So you said speaking out against Trump. So you're saying that you believe that inherent in the video is that Donald Trump has given illegal orders.
No, actually, what I will say about...
Because what Abby argues is that they're just stating a fact, but you're saying it's speaking against Trump.
Because they speak...
The context is everything. The fact that they particularly identified target Trump in the context of them claiming for years that Trump's orders are unlawful, the context is everything. It's not simply a statement of the law of warfare, as military personnel might receive in boot camp, about their duty to not follow unlawful orders. It's contextualized to Trump in this time. Just look at every one of these stories about, oh my God, look what ICE did today. They arrested a helpless grandfather. They arrested the son of a Marine. They did all these horrible things. They arrested an American. And it turns out every single one of them is legitimate. The people that are arrested are illegals who are murderers. If they arrest an American citizen, it's because the American citizen just committed a crime and is subject to arrest. All they do is lie. But they tell the lie because they know that a lie runs around the world before the truth gets out of bed in the morning. Let's jump into this. So this is where I got the image for the thumbnail. Sean Farash says, so far this week, the left has pushed a seditious message to our military. We've covered that Sedition Six video several times now. A fake story about the chief of staff getting fired, a fake story about the attorney general getting fired, a fake story about FBI director getting fired. We all know these are untrue because Trump has personally appeared before the cameras and made explicit it's not true. So what's going on with all these fake stories? Well, fundamentally, the left is pushing propaganda. It's what they do. Progressive fascists push propaganda because they cannot. It's not that they don't want to or choose not to. They cannot have a real, reality-based worldview because their fundamental beliefs and doctrines are inconsistent with reality, with human nature. It has to be based on lies. This is true of communism, of socialism, of progressivism. It's all about raw power and the pursuit of lies to achieve that power. It's not reality-based. Anyone who's read 1984 or Animal Farm, for that matter, knows what I'm talking about. And this is not to mock the left for their use of propaganda. They do this because it works. If propaganda didn't work, nobody would bother. It works because it works on human psychology. It's a very well-developed school of study. We've talked in recent days in the Sedition Six video, and we'll touch upon it again briefly today, how that's a very structured form of communication. There are explicit steps that are pursued for psychological operations, for regime change, for shaping how people view the world in a way that may well be inconsistent with reality, but is very conducive to the seizure of political power. The left is very skilled at this in ways that the right is not. The right is not. We don't really have our equivalent of Saul Alinsky and his rules for radicals, which is just another form of the PsyOp guidelines, practices. Of course, our military has individuals who have expertise in this area, but it's not generally distributed knowledge across the political right as it is across the political left. The political left trains even their foot soldiers in these kinds of psychological operations, and so they tend to be very skilled at it. And it's why they've been able to maintain the degree of power they have for so long. You ever wonder, how can these crazy urban centers, these progressive hellholes, these blue states, how can they make these crazy decisions? Why would the electorate possibly support them? It's clearly harmful. Well, because the populace is brainwashed. You visit a state like New Jersey or New York or Maryland, and any, California, any of the deep blue states, or at least the deep blue segments of those states, to be fair. And you see those people ravaged by deranged TDS. They've all been victimized by progressive propaganda, and it's done because it works. The pink hair people, the ladies screaming at the clouds when Trump is elected, all those people, they've been psychologically traumatized and broken by progressive propaganda. The trans Tifa people, all of them, psychologically broken by leftist propaganda. So they do it because it works.
Mr. Miller, what should happen to the Sedition Six?
Well, they should be held accountable under the law and under the Uniform Code of Military Justice for a seditious conspiracy against the United States of America. This is completely open and shut, straightforward. What is the motivation? Why would 6 members of Congress, selecting specifically for individuals with a CIA or military background, record a carefully written, carefully produced, slickly edited video messaging directly to members of our clandestine services and our armed forces, telling them to disobey orders from their superiors, telling them that they should individually determine whether an order is legal or illegal and defy it. Individuals who are...
Even though by law, military orders are presumed to be lawful, and their percent that are actually unlawful are like 0.0001%. But what they're urging the military to do, the service members to do, is personally make an assessment of each and every order in each and every instance. Do I, the E4, feel like this is a lawful order or not? That obviously suborns insubordination in the ranks.
Exercising life and death power. The CIA engages in covert missions all over the world involving life and death decisions. The armed forces launches life-taking missions time and time again. They carry weapons. They control drones. They control missiles. They work on nuclear submarines. For what purpose would you ever deliver this message? As you said, it's to create a color revolution. It is the CIA playbook for trying to foment insurrection from within the military and within the CIA. Look, we saw after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, Jesse, members of the armed forces openly celebrating his murder. So think about that for a second. You have people in the armed forces, and it can be a tiny, tiny percentage, but who celebrated the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and then now they're getting a message from Kelly and from other members of Congress saying, defy your commanders. Rise up and defy your superiors. That kind of language will get people killed. It endangers our national security. It is dangerously radicalizing. And it has all of the evidence of willfulness and intent. And when they go on TV and they say, well, we can't name what order is illegal, that proves the point. It was never about the law. It was breaking down the chain of command. The Democrat Party is openly engaged every day in trying to tear down democracy, whether it be judges who are binding the president with unlawful orders, releasing violent criminals back onto the street, trying to cement and protect the illegal alien invasion of America, and now fomenting rebellion inside of the ranks of our armed forces and CIA.
Here's another clip. This is the great and powerful Scott Jennings.
The only reason that the FBI is even looking into this is to chill speech. That's exactly what it is. He wants these people to stop. He wants other members of Congress to he wants to silence Democratic members of Congress and other elected leaders on speaking out against Trump. When it comes to...
Wait, can I ask you a question? Stop what? You said they want them to stop. Stop what?
They want them to stop speaking out.
So you said speaking out against Trump. So you're saying that you believe that inherent in the video is that Donald Trump has given illegal orders.
No, actually, what I will say about...
Because what Abby argues is that they're just stating a fact, but you're saying it's speaking against Trump.
Because they speak...
The context is everything. The fact that they particularly target Trump in the context of them claiming for years that Trump's orders are unlawful. The context is everything. It's not simply a statement of the law of warfare, as military personnel might receive in boot camp, about their duty to not follow unlawful orders. It's contextualized to Trump in this time.
If it's speaking against Trump, then you took the message the way they intended it. You took it the way they intended it, which is that Trump has given illegal orders, and you can't name one and nobody else can.
Hold on. Let me just say that Congress has a role in ensuring that there are whistleblower protections when people come out.
So you believe there are illegal orders?
I'm not saying there is. I'm saying in the Biden administration. Okay. I'm saying in the Biden administration, there were whistleblowers. In other administrations, there have been whistleblowers. And what happens is Congress's responsibility
She's just blathering now.
to ensure that these people have protections wherever you are in the federal government.
What does whistleblowing have to do with the Sedition Six video? It doesn't say a word about whistleblowers. Jesse, gosh, what the hell's his name? Where's Jesse? A little bit of the five. Let's hear what these folks have to say. I think there's some good stuff here.
So I talked to two CIA officers who said that this is a part of a larger hoax. And what they're doing here is they're trying to condition the country to prepare for something bad that's about to happen at the hands of Donald Trump. It's straight out of the CIA playbook. It's a destabilization operation where you get people to mistrust each other. And you do this because she's an analyst. And as an analyst, she would make sure what propaganda operations.
A CIA analyst.
Operations were successful, which ones weren't. So she knows what works. So the first part of the video, you establish authority. I'm CIA, I'm military, you need to trust us. Second part of the video, they introduce the threat. And the threat's not foreign, the threat's domestic, the threat's Donald.
First part, second part, note how structured this propagandistic communication is.
Trump. And then at the end, they introduce the solution. What's the solution? You resist. You say no. But they don't give an option. They say this is an obligation for you to do. Now, she is being run because she didn't come up with this herself. She's a Brennan acolyte, and you usually don't have congressmen and senators doing anything together. They kind of hate each other. So in order to organize this had to have had some sort of handler telling her what to do.
And by the way, the organization makes it conspiracy. And seditious conspiracy is an independent felony crime.
And it was risky because nothing like this has ever been done in the history of the country. And you can even tell because the media was skeptical and they couldn't answer the question. So they hadn't even been read in on the operation. You see them fumbling and stumbling. And I'm glad that the U.S. military is now investigating this guy, Kelly, because this is what we expect from Donald Trump 2.0. You can't have the deep state interfering with a duly elected presidency and get away with it. You got to draw the line in the sand and you have to make examples out of people.
Yep. I certainly agree with that 100%.
Meet the new hoax, same as the old hoax. This is a military video that managed to make something out of nothing. So you have, it's the pure structure. One, you begin with an insinuation that becomes an imaginary problem that is bolstered by, and this is important, the credentialed class, which is exactly what they did with the denial of Hunter's laptop and Russian collusion. You find so-called experts. Then this is amplified by a receptive media. You saw that with Russia collusion and the Fine People hoax. And then you get the Trump response, which is then incorporated into the hoax that he is authoritarian. Look how he responded. However, this can only work if you have no memory or no scruples, because there's no credibility among the Democrats or the media.
Or if you don't have me, pointing out what a propagandistic charade this is.
Big picture here. Why is this happening? The power and the currency of the Trump administration is energy, and the goal is to deplete that energy to handicap the White House and to handicap the rest of us. Tiring us out is their strategy. So when you see stuff like that, you realize the only...
By the way, another part of the strategy, the broader strategy of the progressive fascists, is to create a perceived environment of chaos and disorder. Because you know who hates chaos and disorder? You know who that frightens? Women. Women like things to be orderly and safe. Women, not all, but as a group, and for good reason, women will prioritize safety, security over liberty 99 times out of 100. And when I say for good reason, it's for good evolutionary biology reasons, right? So women are bearing children, they're pregnant, they have young ones, they're not fighting wars, they're not fighting off invaders. They need safety and security, and men are supposed to provide that. But if you can create a perception that things are not safe, that things are dangerous and chaotic, women will reflexively vote for any purported solution that will return safety, even if that means a loss of liberty. So that's another angle that the Democrats are pushing here, because guess who is the majority of the electorate? Women are the majority of the electorate. So the Democrats, of course, know this psychology of women, and so they're pushing those buttons.
The value that you can give this thing is to absorb the story. Instead of absorbing it, you observe it. In fact, that's the way you should treat all news, is when a story is coming at you, you don't let it in. You just observe it. You let it swirl around you. You don't want to give it any energy, especially when they don't deserve your energy. Let the two discredited entities, the media and the Democrats, play ball between themselves. You cannot grant them any of your attention or your energy, given the Fine People hoax, the laptop cover-up, the Russian collusion.
And we know all they do is lie. It's lies, 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 all the way down. If progressive fascists didn't have lies to tell, they'd have nothing to say at all. Just look at every one of these stories about, oh my God, look what ICE did today. They arrested a helpless grandfather. They arrested the son of a Marine. They did all these horrible things. They arrested an American. And it turns out every single one of them is legitimate. The people that are arrested are illegals who are murderers. If they arrest an American citizen, it's because the American citizen just committed a crime and is subject to arrest. All they do is lie. But they tell the lie because they know that a lie runs around the world before the truth gets out of bed in the morning.
Especially, and most notably, the Joe Biden cover-up. If you take the word of the Democrats, then you probably still believe OJ is going to find the real killer, and he's dead. As for, and I'll shut up, the non-controversial thing that the astronaut says, it's kind of a half-truth in that it's obvious that you should not obey illegal orders. So that's non-controversial. What is controversial is that they did the video, which means it had nothing to do with that. So you don't gather all the elite
So just keep in mind, right? It's always been the duty of service members to not follow illegal orders. That's always been the case. The video didn't come out always, did it? The video came out this week.
Democrats together and make a video to state something obvious or banal. You do it to create dissent and chaos and deceive Americans.
Here's a little Laura Ingraham with Dakota Meyer, Medal of Honor winner. Let's see what his thoughts are on all this.
We're now honored to be joined by Dakota Meyer, retired Marine Corporal and Medal of Honor recipient. Dakota, it's been way too long, my friend. Great to see you tonight. The Democrats behind this video are now trying to say that they were just trying to remind our service members to follow the law. Is that believable here, given what you've seen?
No, I mean, absolutely not. This is catastrophic. This is the political equivalent to yelling fire in a crowded theater. While you might be able to skirt the legalities of it, which you know this was orchestrated and thought out and strategized, you sit here and you can't argue the intent of it, as you're seeing them not be able to argue or be able to bring up one thing that's unlawful. And when you look at this in context, as far as they've been trying to call all these things they didn't agree with, you know, as far as the Venezuela strikes or as far as the strikes on the drug boats, you know, as far as the National Guard deployment, all these aspects that have been coming, you know, they're just trying to sow seeds of doubt into the one demographic of humans that there can be no doubt in the job that we ask them as Americans to do.
Nails it. Nails it. Derek Van Orden says, the more they dig into this, the more I think it is intentional. Well, it's obviously intentional. It's obviously intentional. It's all scripted and produced. If it's intentional, they're participating in zero-phase operations, also known as shaping operations, which are the first step in a psychological operations initiative. This is operational preparation for the environment. Read the book. I helped write it, and this is the book he helped write. It's actually for the military. Planner's Handbook for Operational Design means psychological operation design, Joint Chiefs of Staff, Joint and Coalition Warfighting, Suffolk, Virginia, and it goes into all this psychological operation techniques that are being now deployed by the Democrats, not against some foreign regime, but against Americans. And my good friend, Joe Neerman over at Good Logic, follow him on X, check out his YouTube channel. He's a great guy. Says everyone discussing the Sedition Six needs to understand this. They are being investigated now because they purposely started with a false premise, what I've been calling context, and then use a technically proper comment, you have a duty not to follow unlawful orders, as a conclusion. Like if someone says, whenever you eat dog feces, please brush your teeth before kissing your children. Yes, obviously, if someone were to eat feces, they should be brushing their teeth. But who the hell is doing that? In this instance, the false premise was not eating dog feces, but a false claim of the president issuing unconstitutional, unlawful orders. This false claim is the potential violation of 2380C, planting the seed, a false seed to insubordination and sedition in the armed forces. That's the violation of 18 U.S.C. 2387, the statute against sedition. This guy describes as a former Marine. I presume that's true. I don't know. Senator Ruben Gallego commits sedition by telling U.S. military they don't have to agree with orders they're given and implies troops don't have to follow them. He then disparages President Trump to wrongly link him to this. This is what makes it sedition. It's not simply saying the simple fact you don't have to follow unlawful orders. If that's said in isolation, that's a true statement. But when it's said in the context of, and this president is a danger to America, and you don't have to follow orders today, contextualizing it to our time, not some general hypothetical. This is the moment of crisis. We know these are difficult, stressful times for you. All that contextualization is what makes it sedition, planting in the minds of service members that every order they get, now they have to second guess, which obviously is not the way the military operates or is supposed to operate. In fact, it's presumed that orders are lawful. And again, the percentage of orders that would be unlawful would be a tiny, minuscule fraction of 1%. Let's hear what Pudgy has to say.
First of all, it's a matter of free speech. Number two, what they said was...
Sedition is no more free speech than if I told you at the point of a gun, give me your wallet. Am I saying words? Yes. Do those words constitute armed robbery in the context of the gun? Yes. This becomes sedition, not just because they say you don't have to follow unlawful orders. Everyone's taught that at boot camp. This becomes sedition because of those words in the context in which they're presented. If I was sitting having a beer with my buddy at a bar and I said, hey, give me your wallet, would that be armed robbery? No, of course not. The context matters.
Basically restating what we all know. You, as a member of the military, have a right to disagree with illegal orders. Now, they didn't say what the illegal order is. They don't have to. They're just doing a frank reminder. And by the way, I remember either was...
Are they doing just a frank reminder? Was that video simply them saying you don't have to follow unlawful orders? Or was that video the framing that we just saw Jesse Waters and Greg Gutfeld and Dakota Myers describe? It's a moment of crisis. We know this president makes you nervous. Just want you to know you don't have to follow unlawful orders.
Definitely in boot camp. And definitely during our deployment that we also had a reminder of that, the JAG officers would come in, say like, hey, by the way, here's the rules of war, everything else like that.
By the way, here's the rules of law. Is that what the video did? By the way, here's the rules of law.
Right. What they were saying was perfectly sane and in line. What we need to understand is not what it says about them. It's what it says about Donald Trump, that he thought
what it says about Donald Trump. There's the connection.
He was hearing was illegal. They're just restating the Constitution of the United States and the oath that we all take. Like, why does he think that is such a threat? First,
well, for reasons I just set out, because of the context. And it turns out that same guy was actually sent a copy of the insurrection video script beforehand. That's what makes this an organized conspiracy, not just a handful of congressmen and senators sharing their thoughts. They're opportunistic, just a coincidence, thoughts on the laws of warfare and unlawful orders.
Would you send? Did you consider? Why were you not part of this video?
Yeah, actually, so I was part of the first video. The second video is by the time the script got to me and it was in the middle of a lot was going on, I just didn't have time to actually record it. But I'm 100% in alignment with them.
By the time the script got to me,
altogether, this stuff happens. You just happen not to end up.
By the time the script got to me, I just didn't have an opportunity.